Hi, I'm Joe Dalton and welcome to Breakthrough Brands, the show that tells how Ireland's entrepreneurial DNA is rebooting the country one successful startup at a time. In this series, we'll demystify the process of starting up your own enterprise and growing it into a successful business by sharing the inspirational, educational, real-life experience of ordinary Irish business people. We talk to entrepreneurs who have taken control of their own destiny by doing what they love. On today's show, we have Joe Kavanagh. Joe is the director from Image Console. 19 years experience in sales marketing, specialising in consultative sales, team building, motivation and management, and social media, product development. Joe has worked with Diageo, Coca-Cola, Carzone, CarBuyersGuide, and a various of other blue chip companies. Hi Joe.
Hi Joe, how are you?
Good, welcome to Breakthrough Brands.
Thank you very much, honoured to be here.
Where did you come from?
I came from Athlone this morning.
My God almighty, that's a trip. How is Athlone these days?
Very good, growth all around. My wife's in recruitment there, so there's lots of loads of potential in Athlone. I travel from there daily to all around car dealers all around the place, to Dublin, up, so the motorway's fantastic.
Yeah,
it's really changed.
I know someone up that neck of the woods is looking for some employment, so I might send a tour there.
You can indeed.
Joe, we got you onto the show because of we're doing a section on the motor industry, the automotive industry, and I know you from the trade going back many years, and indeed wanted to open up the discussion with, like I ask everyone, how did you end up in the motor industry?
Well, I kind of consider myself, I can't sell a car, but I can help a lot of the people that I do work with how to, I suppose, use systems that do sell cars. And if you go back to the consumer part of it, it's really understanding what we're doing at home when we're looking to buy a car that interests me. And I suppose I've fallen into there. I've worked for Coca-Cola, for Guinness 5 years, for the Irish Independent 4 years in property, and got into digital then, and would have spent some time with Carzone, CBG, and now actually in with Skupe Net Image Console. So Image Console is the system that about 200 dealers now are using, and it's an integrated data feed system which allows them to brand their images and do video all online. So it's all a changing landscape now at the moment.
And you would cover the whole of the country?
Absolutely.
And just with the dealers out there, how do they feel the trade is at the moment? Do they feel that it's moving in the new or more so in the used?
I think there's a move towards the manufacturers seeing that you have to move out the old used stock. But where I'm more dealing with them, like we run, we work alongside with the likes of Network Q, Renault Selection, Audi approved, BMW approved, Skoda approved. There's a number of used car programs that we specialise in because it's data feed integrated. And really, if you go back to the consumer point of view, everybody who buys a new car is more likely to go to trade in a used car, so the dealer needs to shift that on out afterwards. But if you look at what we're doing as consumers and what each generation is moving up to, the more importance of video, branding, correctly sort of presented adverts is key.
Well, that brings up a question. The consumer and how they are now going to the dealership. They're doing a lot online. There's a lot of research online. So walk us through that process of the buying sort of cycle of, in your opinion, what someone would be now purchasing a car.
Okay. I learned something back in my Diageo days, right? Called DWBB. And it wasn't about actually how to hold a pint. It was about keeping the centre of anything is the customer, the core. And I think I've moved that out to now. So if you think about how even ourselves buy cars and you know what we expect to see, there's a generation now, like my kids, they don't go and Google something, they go into YouTube. Now I'm telling them it's about Elf on the Shelf. They've been watching this in the last couple of weeks. Yeah. They naturally fall into this black hole. It's the second largest search engine. They're in there. It's a shareable video platform, and they're expecting basically to fall into that hole and get absorbed in there. So if they're doing that and they're used to it, they're not going in typing. The ability to read, although my little daughter now who's 10, she's a fantastic reader. She's consuming skullduggery pleasant, book by night. She's in this world. She's going to be this new consumer, and it's also reflecting on myself and yourself. I'm sure if you think back in how you use Facebook, how you're using LinkedIn, it's video enabled now. So we're all looking to consume that. So how does that go back to someone who's showrooming or looking to buy a car? They're gathering so much information online before they even go to the dealership. I think there's a statistic out there now where it used to be 10 visits is now 2 actually come into the footfall into the dealer. But they've done 88 to 91% of them have actually looked online. Think with Google had 900 touch points from one woman's story over the 6 to 8 weeks that she was researching buying a car. It's hugely interesting.
Yeah, I think people walk into a car dealership now and they have the documentation of what they want, how the vehicle is spec'd out, and they present it to the sales guy and go, look, can you build this on it? The downside there is that price-wise, is there that negotiation? I know that the margins are very low in new cars as well.
Absolutely. Everyone thinks that a car dealer makes millions out of it, but the margins actually in any car sale is actually surprisingly low. So I'm not a car dealer, but I can defend them on that from knowing how they perform. Yeah,
it's like some guys are making 50 quid a car commission, and there's a lot of work involved in that as well. So in saying that they're making X amount, they need to be able to draw as many clients into or prospects into the business to actually then see if they can evaluate them, see if they can, and push them through the process. So with yourselves, you will assist the dealer in that buying process. Would that be?
Yeah, if you took a look at salespeople now, so it doesn't fall in the door anymore, and we're doing our research at home. So I've been telling a lot of dealers that their salespeople are no longer salespeople, they're digital marketeers, and that joining, back again to Diageo days in Guinness UDV, there was this brilliant department in between sales and marketing which married both together, and there wasn't this adversarial part of their sales and they're just sales guys and these are marketeers and they're using TLAs or 3-letter acronyms to confuse the sales guys. So that worked in a great model, and I can see that if the young sales guys or sales women, sorry, apologies about the sexism in there, if the young salesperson actually embraces that they're the most important person putting an advert up online, this is where we help them as an image console. So there's a system there which is data feed integrated and over Wi-Fi allows them to cut down time in 45 minutes to, in some cases, to about 5-10 minutes to get a car up online. But it's their ownership. They need to understand that what they put out, that goes out through all of the data feeds out to it, that they're responsible for the quality of that, and subject to that being viewed, it's going to get those 2 people now that are going to come in armed with the information. I know, but
so going back to you're speaking about video, and like I've an 18-month-old who will grab my phone and hit the icon that she wants to watch and then scoops to at 18 months. So they're absorbing this information in. So generations, we have Generation X, we have Generation Y. Daniel, our sound engineer, he's a Generation
Lost.
How are you or companies looking at the different generations and getting them involved in selling cars? And the reason why I'm bringing it up, I think it was in the 1960s, Ford and Chrysler realised that there was going to be a market for the black American person, and they started doing their advertising and everything for those people that were going to be buying those cars in the next 10 years or 20 years. Are you looking at something similar to that with the generations?
Right now, what we're sort of working towards the people who are actually consuming the main publishing websites now. I mean, all bar one are basically video enabled. So the habitual habits of people expecting to see a video is growing basically in even the last 6 months. But also the ability of car dealers on their own, you hear everything ASK, attitude, skills, knowledge. We can put in the skills and knowledge, but the attitude of that sales or that dealership needs to be to embrace this, because they're now having, even the elderly gentleman who's bought a car and travelled from Galway to Dublin, bought the car, and this is actually a true story. Him and his wife drove back and couldn't work the adaptive cruise control. The salesperson, and this is getting back to knowledge and using video, grabbed our system, image console. They record, rather than asking that that person to drive back, or explain it over the phone, or drive to them. There were only 3 options. They went out with the 4th option now and actually recorded that and sent it via image console via text message. You can see the person watching the video, and lo and behold, it ended up with a happy ending where this person was able to use adaptive cruise control.
Where 20 years ago they would have ignored the call.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
That's another opportunity here. And I was thinking on the way in, that you were going to ask me what's the biggest opportunities for car dealers, and I don't know if I'm meant to mention a particular.
That one off my list.
I think there's a huge opportunity here. I bought 3 cars off a dealership in Athlone called Centrepoint Autos, if I'm allowed to say it, and I stick with Brian in there because he's effectively my automotive consultant. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm buying a car, and it's not just a sale.
It's a relationship.
He's a relationship, and if anything goes wrong, I've asked him about certain things, and every single part of it, he's come in, and I'm going to buy another car off him. So there's an opportunity here for not just the sale. That if I buy off a large brand franchise, that literally that person's my account manager for the lifetime I have of that car, and they use video 360, branded images, all the tools that we have at points of the lifetime of me owning that car to retain me as their account.
2 years, 3 years.
2 years. 2.5 years comes up, my PCP contract's going to run out, they're grabbing image console, they're taking a video, they've done their equity manager, sort of workout. Joe, I can put him into a new car, save him the hassle in 6 months' time, and it only costs him €5 more as a new finance contract.
We're just going to take a short break. This show was sponsored by Harris Myers, your sales and marketing agency, helping you develop a better sales and marketing pipeline. Going back maybe 16 years ago when I was in the motor trade, I remember it was interesting that I pushed it that people would remember my name, and then when I left the motor trade, I would still get telephone calls from people going, look, I know you left the trade, could you recommend someone? Yeah. But I also discovered that a lot of people knew the dealership that they purchased the car from, but they didn't know the person.
Yeah.
And that's, and there's a lot of movement at the moment. So this guy that you're working with as well, if he moved to another dealership, would you follow him or would you stay with the dealership?
I would follow him. It's down to this level of service from that individual looking after me as that account manager. That's what I would stay with him, actually.
You'd stay with him on it, even if he drove to Lada.
Even so. But there's so many challenges coming, and I'll go on to your question that you were going to ask me before I jumped in rudely. But there's so many challenges next year as I see them, from the consumers looking for more digital formats, from the availability stock of Brexit comes in, from the attitudes and skills of the sales staff of embracing this new technology. With Image Console, there's reports from the back end of who has done what, and it's a great management tool, not as a stick, but as the carrot saying, you had 10 walk-ins today, 10 of them left, you need to have 5 of them with a follow-up video presenting the one thing that you couldn't provide them. So they were looking for a black car, you didn't have a black car there with cream interior, but there's an alternative here, or they need to go home to actually discuss with their partner, and you're sending them the alternative, and it's that phone call that is now visualised, and the person at home is using both senses, and that's the trick. If I was phoning around, and I've done this before, and again I always bring this back to myself, like I'm not inventing anything new here, I am the consumer. And I remember when I was working for one of the larger websites, I actually sent out an email to purchase a car for my wife, and I sent it from my own private email. I sent out 30 emails. 2 dealers replied back, and I had 8,000. I'd said I have 8,000 cash here to buy a car, and I went from 7 to 9, and 2 dealers replied back to a customer, and that shocked me. That shocked me exactly how they didn't even try to I suppose get into a relationship with me. But now that was 2 years ago. So now I would expect that if I sent that email, at least I'm getting possibly a video.
It's interesting. I had Jeff Smith on last week, and that was the discussion that when the old salesperson, when someone walked in, they would talk to them, but if they're getting an email in, they're not acting on it as quick. They're acting on it, I'll get to that tomorrow or the day after. Joe,
Thanks,
just we're talking about dealers and how dealers can improve themselves. I'm going to ask you a question. What do you think dealers are not doing?
they're trying to do everything, but they're not understanding, I suppose, what that consumer is. Now, I'm not slating dealers at all. They're hard workers. They know their trade so well. They know there's an opportunity here for them to become. I suppose if you look at that Generation Z, right, who are not Groupon people anymore. They've grown up during the time when their parents are born in 1995. You know, they're the new generation that's coming up, 25, 30. They're based in ethos and education. I think you asked me on LinkedIn one time what makes a good salesperson. I think I answered back saying there is no, so everything in life is a sale. It's education. You know, I have to if a teacher stands up in front of a school of 30 students selling algebra being the product, if 3 of the kids down the back don't get it, that sale's not complete. For me to get the kids to go to bed tonight, I'm going to have to sell them the idea of going to bed. There's a negotiation in it. Yeah. So everything is a sale, but it's all based in education. So I think from a consumer's point of view, it's not just buying a car, it's all the information around it. Like I had an unfortunate recent experience where I drowned my own car in the floods, and for the first time now, on the back of, you know, my children, the environment, I'm actually considering a hybrid. I'm 42 years of age and I'm now going greener, but I'm searching for the knowledge of that car salesperson who's able to fulfill what that would be. And back to the digital automotive person, if I was to ask Centrepoint, what do you think I should have? Them knowing me in a long-term cycle of buying a car, he would be able to pick up on the fact that, Joe, you know what, there's a good X hybrid, I'm not going to name a brand there for you.
If you get into the sales process, like reality, and we've noticed in the past, and well, it's you know, it's part of the sales process. Product knowledge is 15%. You should know 95% of the product, but you'll only use 15% of that individual. So just drifting back, when I say what are customers doing, not doing, the reason why I asked it was because I don't see a lot of them using Facebook, social media in a way that they should be.
I see a lot of marketing videos, and you have, again, a bit more crazier and crazier to draw attention, which is great on Facebook. Facebook's huge, right? And personally, I think it's one of the biggest threats to all of the website platforms out there. They're now tipping their toe into Marketplace, which is now basically the Facebook shopping mall for everything, and motors are in there. So dealers need to capitalise on that, I suppose. But they're using these sort of marketing videos, and I'm trying to say that when someone tries to sell to me on Facebook, it's a shutdown. It's, you know, and I've had a lot of people confirming this to me. If someone directly tries to sell to me on Facebook, it's there as social media. Yeah, it's more informative now. So it's car videos that are wacky, grand, it's a branding thing. Will it sell a car? No. Informative videos about, again, back to that ethos, that ethical thing, price, how to. They have a certain amount of demand if you're going back to those Generation Zs who are looking for this information.
Okay, so I totally agree with you, and what's coming across is that, okay, there's a lot of guys who are doing the promotional, but they're not doing natural nurturing campaigns on Facebook. So where they're going, here we are, I'm not trying to sell you anything, but here's some information. Absolutely. And when we were involved in video, and still are, but it was a case of get the customer in, testimonials, that's social proof. Why don't you do a video of a female talking about the dealership and how it was beneficial to her? And then that, because, you know, there is the thing about the car sales and the car dealership that they're evil and they're bad and they try and screw you over, which, you know,
no, well, again, that brings in the opportunity of the account management.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying, that it's that are the dealers then developing a strategy plan to use social media, as in social media, to generate brand awareness and reliability, or are they still going to? Are you helping them with that, or are they still going to just plug away doing the same old thing?
Well, Image Console specifics are car specific adverts. So
I understand that, but I'm talking about. I know you consult as well, and you're a good consultant to the dealership.
I'm
so
paid for that part.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that later. So that's the question that I have. So, are you helping them through your platforms to develop a better presence.
Yeah, absolutely. So get back to that ASK, the attitude, skills, knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So it's very hard to get a positive attitude when someone doesn't have the skills or knowledge there. So we help with the skills and knowledge and try to grow the attitude that this is actually the way to go, to embrace it. If you go back to basics, okay, if I draw a restaurant analogy, okay, so I have a beautiful big restaurant and the chefs in the background are cooking up SH1 tea, okay? That restaurant's going to be empty because the food's bad. So the same with a car dealership. If the adverts are wrong, they could spend as much as they want anywhere, but are not going to get the sales. So it's back to basics. Make sure that when the advert is created with all the formats, that it's actually put out there. Before we spend an extra penny anywhere, make sure the advert is what the consumer wants. And that's correctly taking pictures. I remember back in the day standing in front of a large group of network dealers, telling them about photographs. And their arms folded and they look back and says, who's this Donegal guy telling me to take photographs? I'm not a photographer. So now it's video. And they're saying, who's this guy from Donegal? And I won't mention a bad word they might put after my name, but who's this guy from Donegal and they're telling me to take video? I'm not a video photographer, I'm a car salesperson. So they need to get into that place where it is tied in and go back to what we said at the start, this joint between sometimes sales and marketing teams. So obviously you know, Joe, that there's a different level of dealership. So the large groups have dedicated teams or even video departments now. They're doing it very well, and it changes so much nearly weekly now that the dynamics of catching up, maybe the crazy video of someone chopping up a car has had its day in 2017. If I think back on social media, some car dealer battering a car for a scrappage, it symbolises in my head what Facebook was for the car dealerships. So what is the next one? I don't know myself personally, but I do know that it certainly needs to be around a tamer, more informative, clever value add that someone needs to actually have a car.
I think with Facebook, the moving forward is going to be the power in messaging.
Yes,
where people are going to be, you've got the pages, you've got the profile, but it's actually messaging people, and that seems to be working quite well as well. I would also suggest with what dealers should do is create a WhatsApp group to everyone has purchased the car, so at any time if they've any questions or whatever, may want to book in or whatever, they can do it through the WhatsApp as well.
But also then you've got to take into consideration, this is a huge thing for car dealers and hasn't really hit on yet, is the GDPR for the 28th of May. So we are going to have this big data policies. I've had most of the manufacturers come to us now about where would our GDPR policy, and for anyone who's not aware of this, 28th of May next year is Y2K2, where if Joe Kavanagh says he wants to be forgotten, that every dealership and every person they've contacted afterwards has a policy of how Joe Kavanagh can be forgotten, how they got my details. So I'm even tipping my toe into this, but this is a hugely important thing because it's 4% of the company's turnover.
And if another company is hosting it as well for them, they get hit.
Absolutely.
Mike Ross is coming in on the next show and he's going to be talking about it.
Very good. Well, I advise anybody who's listening here in the car industry to really tail it up.
Going back, yes, you are right, and one of the things that I've discussed on other shows for the motor trade is the annoyance of car dealers, managers, making the salespeople and the service take those email addresses. Get those email addresses. Why didn't you get that email address? Get that telephone number. Why didn't you get that? And then they go, right, I have it, and they have a sheet of paper and it sits in the corner and nothing is done with it. And unfortunately, they don't understand that what they have is a wealth of information. Like an email address is like you are being given permission to get into that person's living room when they are watching Coronation Street with a message.
I have one better for you, Joe, now. So in Image Console there's a customer video, which is a high definition YouTube video. So take this scenario, and I wrote this on LinkedIn, where I phone up and I say, can you tell me about the car? And over one earpiece in the phone, the young sales guy, it's an immaculate car, it's got one owner, and I'm using 1 cent listening to it. So the call goes much better if I phone and say, can you tell me more about the car? And the salesperson says, well, actually, can I get your mobile number? So there's one important piece of data, even more important than an email. And they're going to send you a video, is that okay? And they say yes, and it's going to come by text message. And they say, really, would you? That'd be great. And then you say, when I send it, I'm going to book in a time, 3 o'clock, grab a cup of coffee, we'll sit down and I'm going to tell you about the car as you're watching it and this, and they're going to say, would you do that? Wow. So you've done so much, you've made that person closer to the sale. Funnily, I got an objection yesterday on this about someone said, you're not giving too much to the person before they come in. And that was a valid question, what they asked. And I says, but if your consumers are asking for this, why would you not give it to
everything.
Give them everything. So I turned it on the head and I says, well, in that case, then why on one of the large websites that you advertise on, you don't just stick up one photograph of the headlamp and ask them to come in and view the car to tease them in. So that person got the analogy then. So it is very much, that person who's sitting at home that you're talking to on the phone, using both senses, watching the video. The next thing is, I know car dealers who have sold it without the person actually coming to pick up the car. An assessor comes down, looks at it, and cash goes, or payment goes across. So it's all these. It's an interesting time for car dealerships. Very much interesting time.
It's going back in the old days. I remember trying to figure out a way before we had even any of the technology, how to sell used cars to people by getting them just to put a deposit down on the website to come in, and at that time, that's how long ago it was. There was no technology to do that.
Now it's what I term is the handbag and shoes price, because my wife does not mind spending €250 a month on shoes or handbags. So it's the PCP shoes price. So it's changed.
Joe, what's the future for yourself?
Image console. So if you think about it, classified advertising, you've got property, you've got recruitment. They're all platforms that need video that we're not reading, we're consuming in a certain way. So image console's got an interesting future actually. Within the motoring industry, we're working with 200 dealers currently. There's about another 300 or 400 that we could successfully work with. And as you say, the consultative part, that's the best part for me, and I enjoy it. Yeah.
So in saying that quickly, tell me, where can people find your business? Give us a web address. Where can they reach us at?
www.imageconsole.com, or myself on LinkedIn, Joseph Kavanagh.
Sound. What's the best business advice you've ever received, Joe?
A sale is not complete till the money hits the bank account.
Yeah, that's from your wife.
No. I learned that along the way, where you thought you had a lovely month and you're sitting there going, and then you come back and the accounts tell you, the sales prevention department tells you that this not happened.
Where's that wash out? And also, what business advice, what business book would you recommend for someone to read?
Currently, I'm reading Beast Quest with my 7-year-old, so I'm on book 6 with that, with Epos the Flame Bird.
I used to love that. My kid grew out. What's going on?
Anyways. But I suppose the old cliche one that stands by me every time, and I nearly go back to it every now and again, like a Bible, is Stephen R. Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That was a life changer for me years ago, and if it just has certain set rules that no matter what. But the biggest thing in business, I think, and I hope I get it across, is integrity.
Yeah,
particularly in Ireland.
It's like I posted an image up with just a quote on Facebook, and it mentions integrity, and it's had about 300-400 shares on it. It's
one of those.
It's one of them. What song would you like us to play out with, Joe?
You know what? It's very seasonal, isn't it? So, Little Drummer Boy for the kids.
Little Drummer Boy. Joe, thanks for coming on the show.
It's an absolute pleasure. Listen, and all opinions were my own.
Talk to you later.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
This show was sponsored by Harris Myers, your sales and marketing agency, helping you develop a better sales and marketing pipeline.